Okay. Oh, I'm there. Hello. Okay, we are live with Environmental Coffee House. We are with Kevin Hester from New Zealand. And we will build a little bit of an audience first. And usually what I do, Kevin, is I wait to see who joins and how it looks. And sometimes I even do a little inviting. But I think I did quite a lot of inviting. I think there's a lot of people that are going to be here. So let's start. And I'm going to introduce you. And this is, again, Kevin Hester. Welcome, Kevin, to Environmental Coffee House. And I'm sorry, I don't have my sign behind me. I fell down. So tell me and tell Environmental Coffee House and tell all the viewers, tell us about who Kevin is. Who's Kevin?
I was born in New Zealand, but to Irish immigrant parents. So I'm a first-generation New Zealander. And I won lotto when I was born. A, because of my parents, and B, because of where they located to. Because, New Zealand is such a wonderful...
We're already getting problems with the audio. Already. I can't believe it. Are you talking?
I would wait until you see if you had sorted the audio out.
The audio is not good.
Okay.
Try this again.
Cool.
I'm sorry. This happens all the time with people that I don't know why. I'm getting upset because I want to hear what Kevin has to say. Okay, everybody. Who's with us? Who can tell me about... Can you hear Kevin?
Cool. Aaron can hear me fine.
All right.
Hi, Aaron.
Okay. All right. Good. That sounds good. So let's get started. Keep going. And hopefully it won't break up. All right.
So I had this enormous privilege of being born into New Zealand, and it's a big series of islands in the South Pacific. So I got a very close connection with the oceans from when I was very young. And funnily enough, when I was a schoolboy, the one and only sporting event I won at school was some sailing on a lake called Lake Karapiro in the Waikato in the North Island of New Zealand. And because I finally won something in sport, I became very, very involved in sailing, and I became an ocean sailor. And over the years, I've done 16 ocean passages on small yachts.
Again, we have a sound issue. Okay, Linda says she can hear us both, so continue.
Cool. So yes, I did all this sailing, and as I was doing that sailing, I noticed a lot of changes happening on the oceans. I saw the disappearance of the flying fish. And initially I thought, okay, that'll be because of overfishing, because we all know that the oceans are being vacuumed. But I did some research, and then I found out, no, it's not that. The story is much bigger, with acidification and the fact that the oceans are soaking up the vast majority of the carbon that humans are emitting into the atmosphere. If it wasn't for the oceans, we would be in much, much worse situation. Because most of the things...
I'm having a problem hearing you.
I
don't know why. I'm asking everybody. They can hear you. I can't. So cool. Continue on, Kevin. Okay. Since I can't really... something's wrong with my video, audio. Something's wrong with everything with me today. So since I really didn't hear you very well, why don't you then go and continue with this, telling our audience about, your background, and then a little bit about the ocean trips, how you became a lover of the ocean, and go on from there.
I don't really get into star signs very much, but as chance would have it, I'm a Piscean. And I have this real infatuation with the oceans. I've spent a lot of time on it and under it. I'm a scuba diver, and I've been a diver for 40 odd years. And when you do those sort of things and immerse yourself in nature, you're more conscious of change. And I think that's the problem with urbanization, with so many of of people living in cities. They're removed a lot from the natural world, and they don't identify with it in the same way. And for that reason, they're not as aware of the danger and the risks that is associated with industrial civilization.
Wow.
How are you going?
Okay.
Cool.
Since I feel like I'm hearing, everybody else can. Let's get some questions from the audience if anybody has any, or we continue because we have to go where it's going to be difficult. I don't understand why I can't hear and everybody else can. It's putting me at a disadvantage. Well, Kevin, where you left off.
Well, I was talking about the oceans and the significance that they have for us and the danger that they're in. You know, most terrestrial complex life on the planet evolved out of the oceans. And our oceans are dying right before our very eyes now. And most of the breaths that we take came from the ocean, not from the land. You know, a lot of people believe that the forests are the lungs of the planet. They are, but predominantly the oxygen that we breathe comes from the oceans. So when you have an acidifying ocean and the catastrophic loss of phytoplankton, you're losing the source of the air we breathe. How can it not be the main subject that everyone is talking about?
Wow. Well, we know that. Okay. I'm still having trouble hearing you. So,
Sorry.
I mean, really, this is you. You've got to do this. You've got to pull this off a bit without me because for some reason I'm having the worst problem with my technical side. I can't hear you. Therefore I can't ask you the questions I want to ask you.
Well, Linda has just asked us on the blog, when did I first notice that the oceans were dying? And that was about 10 or 12 years ago when I first started noticing the flying fish disappear. I'll just give a little background about the flying fish. We'd be sailing along in the middle of the Pacific, and flying fish would either hit the boat, the side of the boat, or they would hit the sails and land on the deck. And it was free fish. You could just pick the fish up and eat them. It was just unbelievable. And over the course of those sailing trips, I stopped seeing them. Yeah, it was quite extraordinary.
Wow. So you could pick the...
Pick them up. It was the easiest fishing I've ever...
Wow. So basically you stopped seeing the fish.
Yeah, and that was a warning. And I delved into it, started doing investigation. And then the more I looked, the more I found how serious the situation was. Eventually that led me to Professor Guy McPherson, who you've interviewed. And when I first heard about Guy McPherson's message, I just simply couldn't accept it. And I think that's what most people, their first reaction to Professor McPherson's work is. They just can't believe it can be so bad. And they can't believe it could all be falling apart while we're here. You know, what are the chances of us being around at the end of the human movie?
That's the scariest part here for everybody, because it's very hard for people to, say that this is happening, especially if it doesn't happen in front of them and the mainstream media is not showing them. We have to go to alternative media to see everything. We have to go to Climate State. We have to go to your website. We have to see everything online. Well, that's not the rank and file.
No, that's right.
And that is not the people that we need to reach. And it's really disconcerting because I run around telling everybody what's going on and how scary it is and that it's true and you've got to be prepared. And they look at me like, they go, oh, Okay. And then, oh boy, I bought an Audi. And, the next thing, like I said in my other video, it's frightening to me how people are reacting, how they are not reacting. And
there's
especially with
a huge part of the blame lies with the mainstream media. Because when we talk about the severity of the crisis, and no one lets the alarmist. But the reality is that all of that media is owned by a small number of the corporations that are all linked to grinding the living planet into dust. So of course they're not gonna tell us the truth.
Well, that's frightening. We have a question already. Kevin, what did you first notice? When did you first notice the ocean dying?
That was about 10 years ago when I first started realizing it. And if you talk to any marine biologist, they'll tell you that they've known about this for a long time. About 20 years ago, I dived the Great Barrier Reef for the first time in Australia. And I went to a seminar. And he said to us at the beginning of the seminar, turn to the person beside you, pat them on the back, and congratulate them for being the last generation to dive on the Great Barrier Reef before it died. He told me that 20 years ago. And my immediate reaction was, oh, he's exaggerating. Exactly what people say about me now. I thought about him. I thought, oh, he's exaggerating. And now within the time frame that he said, the Great Barrier Reef is in hospice. I'd like to make one little point about the Great Barrier Reef, or a couple of points about it, is that it's definitely in hospice. When Fiji, a couple of years ago, and it was the first Category 5 cyclone that ever hit Fiji, it crossed the Coral Sea, and it dumped an enormous amount of cold water on the Great Barrier Reef, which saved it because it lowered the ocean temperature. I believe that the next El Nino that we see will be the death knell for the Great Barrier Reef.
That's it. Because of the way, it's so much worse with the next El Nino raining down terror, really. El Nino, a natural function. A natural function. It has the potential
to be a game changer for the planet. No question about it.
I've been reading. It is what I've been reading. It is. And we have Robin Western saying, hi, Kevin.
Hey, Robin.
Thanks for joining us, even though we're having a little bit of problem with on my end with my earpieces. But I'm doing my best. So, okay. So you've traveled and you noticed this. This was 20 years ago. 20 years ago. What happened in that span of 20 years that then got you to where you are now? I mean, this person said this. Wow. Overwhelming. How did you get here?
Well, very reluctantly. I've accepted the fact that we're heading for Armageddon and collapse. And I think it's really important for people to understand that I haven't come to this conclusion willingly. I haven't accepted Professor McPherson's perspective willingly. I spent the first 2 years that I knew about his work, I tried to prove him wrong. And I was unable to prove him wrong, and that's how I accepted it. But, it's not as if I willingly went along with one person's story. It's not like that at all. I looked for all the evidence I could find to prove him wrong.
I'm listening.
It's not like that at all. I looked for all the evidence I could find to prove him wrong.
Oh boy. So you tried to do this. You tried to find the evidence and you couldn't do it. I'm hearing you a little behind. So
I would like more than anything on this world for me and Guy McPherson to be proven wrong.
But we can't. Not at this point. We can't do any of that. Not with everything we've been given.
Yeah, that's right. People need to realize that we're no longer in the linear stage of this disaster where it's progressing in a steady way. That is over. Michael E. Mann and his colleagues came up with the hockey stick theory many years ago. And the hockey stick theory shows the exponential increase in speed. All of the graphs that we're looking at now show that same exponentiality. And I think people really have to get a grip that it won't just happen slowly now. We will see collapse unfold very, very quickly.
And do you think that collapse is being hastened by the United States not pulling out so much out of Paris because of the fact that everything I've read and everybody I've heard said it's going to increase it. We're never going to be able to stay that low. It's a runaway freight train.
Correct.
But I don't like to say it in a way that doesn't give people a reason to live, a reason to fight, a reason to try to go on.
Oh, look, well, I think for me, it's the very opposite. Once I realized how bad the situation was, I started embracing life much more intensely. It's much more important for me to make the most of every day, knowing what I do. I think it's a straw man argument when we have people throwing at us saying, oh, you're disempowering people. You know, people won't do anything. Well, the reality is, as long as the US military and the Pentagon are rampaging around this planet with their imperialist adventures, there is nothing that all the people, the individual people, will be able to do to change it. I'm not saying not do it.
Absolutely.
Plastic off the but I'm just not attached to the outcome. I'm doing it because it's the right thing, not because it's going to fix anything.
Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of those that think that we can fix everything that needs to be fixed. There are those that say we are going to be able to do the carbon removal. We're going to get renewable energy. We're going to do this and do all that. Now, I encourage it all because I don't want to say to somebody that there's no reason to do it. I want to put solar panels on my roof. I want to try to make where we live somewhat sustainable, if it's possible, even though my intellectual self knows that it could be a futile effort. But you can't, I feel like the young people have to have something. They have to have the truth, but they have to have something that says, this is what you need to do to mitigate that. Or even with the 2018 elections in the United States. Now, aren't there elections coming up in New Zealand?
Yes, there are. Yep, next month.
What does it mean there?
I have no hope. I have no hope for any of the main political parties doing anything constructive towards this. Because even the Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand, they don't accept how severe the situation is. They're still telling people that if they get solar panels and if they don't get plastic bags from the supermarket, everything will be fine. But the reality is that industrial civilization is incompatible with a functioning biosphere on this planet. So all that talk about sustainability, a lot of that is driven by an industry of sustainability. They all have products to sell.
There are products, and there's college. There's now a whole curriculum in science of sustainability and mitigation and how to live in the future. It's on the internet. I think is it Harvard? I think it might be Harvard. I don't know, but I listened and I was listening to one of their shows, and it was a little bit over my head. But I've never said I was a scientist. So I have you guys on.
It's intellectually bankrupt to say that will fix the problem. It won't fix the problem. And there was a time where people like McPherson and Derek Jensen were advocating the overthrow of industrial civilization as a solution to runaway abrupt climate change. And I was a subscriber to that until it dawned on me that when we have the collapse of industrial civilization, we will have 450 nuclear power station meltdowns.
Yeah.
Each of those.
They have to have people.
Yeah, they have to have people. And they have to have functioning industry, because spare parts will break down. At the moment, everything is available on demand. You can get most of your spare parts for anything over the net in a few days. That is all going away.
Well, what do you think I'm going to put something that Heidi put up. Heidi says, as I always say, we need to urgently establish a new clean, green energy economy, one in which all working in the defense, nuclear, and fossil fuel industries and the unemployed are provided positions earning more than a living wage. So I think what she's talking about is our economy, the economy of the world. Could we change it fast enough to do this? And actually, it doesn't hurt to do it. It doesn't hurt to try. It doesn't hurt to be an activism. We have to be activists. I mean, that's what we all are.
The point I'd make about that is the old paradigm. A whole lot of us have been trying to either overthrow capitalism or make capitalism a little more benign. But all of that now is too late. We're in the runaway stage. At the point now we're losing the sea ice in the Arctic. That is a game over for complex life on this planet. And that's in the IPCC predictions, that wasn't going to happen until 2050. It's happening now as we're talking about it.
I'm just behind you a little bit. I can't hear you through this.
No problem.
What's happening now? Okay, so I see. You're saying that we have been doing this, and there's been people trying, and that we're at the point there where it's not going to happen. So Robin says that someone from the Green Party in New Zealand told me a message had to be 80% positive to get people to vote for them, a justification for lying.
Correct.
How do you feel about that?
Oh, it's absolute dead spot on. And for anyone who's listening to this presentation, the person who put that question up was that statement up was Robin Westenra. Robin has an amazing blog called Seymour Rocks, and he chronicles what I do, but to a much greater extent. He chronicles the unraveling of our biosphere and the re-rise of fascism. You know, people are talking about, we have to, reform capitalism. We haven't even stomped out fascism. Look what's happened. Look what's happened in the United States, where fascism is on the rise as we speak now.
Okay. Well, we're going to go to a comment because I'm at a loss with hearing. So I'm going to go to Werner, who said, we can't give up hope. Is better than fear to conquer any problem. Guy McPherson's doomsday propaganda is not helping. Well, I will say to that, I'm going to say something to that. I always give hope, and I always say don't stop. And I tell the kids to be active and be in activism, try to do and work for what's right and what you feel, because what else can you do? These kids need to be shown that there is something that they can do that's meaningful for the rest of their lives, for whatever is happening. Whatever's happening. Every single day, get up in the morning and make a difference. And as Guy says, live a life of, strive for a life of excellence. How do you feel, Kevin, about that?
I think it's critically important to tell the truth to young people. They've been lied to from the day they were born. And if we're not going to tell them the truth about the severity of the crisis, they're going to try and do what I did and what my parents did. And that's work all their lives with the idea that at some stage we will be able to retire and have a good and happy old age. Well, that isn't going to happen. This industrial civilization is going to collapse any time, any month or any year from now. And anyone who gets on the old paradigm, which is what a lot of people are trying to encourage people to do, is going to miss out on the opportunity of living now, in the present. Strive for a life of excellence, as Leslie Kushner has just said.
Right. Well, that's what we're doing. I'm doing. Striving for a life towards excellence, striving to learn as much as I can and teach as much as I can, bring the voices from the continuum on here. And your voice is a very important voice. It is a very important voice. And everybody that's listening has to understand that you're coming from experience and study and science. But again, we can't stop. So what do you say in the interim? What do you say to people in the interim? You know, that say, okay, we have this abrupt climate change. I had a tornado. What do you say to somebody who's 25 years old?
What I would say to them is follow your instinct. And a lot of these young people, they know that the shit has hit the fan. They know that we're in dire straits. But a whole lot of structures like the NGO complex, you have people like 350.org and Greenpeace who are still telling people, oh, we can sort this out. We can fix it. You just have to do these basic things of sustainability. That debate or that perspective, it was valid years ago. It is not valid any longer. And one of the problems we have is that those organizations are now corporations. They take in millions and millions. In the case of Greenpeace, over 100 million. I think Greenpeace has something like 150 million invested in the stock market, for pity's sake.
Is that what Cory Morningstar is studying? She's studying the big GMOs, right? The big, the big environmental organizations. Is she not?
Yes, she does. She writes, and her team, she has a fantastic team, and their website is called wrongkindofgreen.org. And what they do is that they slay the sacred cows, and they speak truth to the situation that we're seeing now. You know, I used to be a huge fan of Bill McKibben and Naomi Klein, but they are now parroting the same dichotomy that the dominant culture is doing. They're just re-monetizing the collapse that we're going through. And I think it's really, really wrong for young people to be bullshitted about the future and what they're facing.
I agree. But I agree with you. But when I do try to talk, again, I get a lot of glazing over. I get a lot of, even from my own daughter, I get a lot of, Mom, you're crazy, even though she sees what I do. How do you counteract this, Kevin? You know what it is? It's just going to be a group denial. And there's nothing we're going to be able to do about it. So to me, we do the best. We do the best we can. And we tell people to be productive.
Sure. I don't think we're going to need to have this conversation for much longer. I honestly don't. The biosphere is unraveling at an exponential rate. I think in a few months' time, I won't be needing to put my head above.
Again, I'm having the trouble hearing, but I'm looking for a good. There was a comment from Patrick McNulty, who's up there and saying energy conversion. I have no idea what it is, and I'm sure, Patrick, you're going to write to me and you're going to tell me. Do you know anything about this, Kevin?
Yes, I do. Patrick believes that he has technology that can fix the problem.
I could put it up.
Ocean tunnels. If you just look on Facebook for ocean tunnels, you'll find Patrick's Facebook page where he posted a lot of the science about it. Ocean tunnels. If you just look on Facebook for ocean tunnels, you'll find Patrick's Facebook page.
Okay, I'm listening. I have to hear it from somewhere else to get this going.
Cool.
So we can look at. He has got a page, and he explains everything on his page.
Correct.
Okay. Well, this is your interview, and I want to know the fires and the things that are going on. What do you see that we're in for? I mean, in the United States, some of us are very insulated. I'm not. I had a tornado. I know what's going on. It hit me. It hit me.
I have a post on my website about wet bulb temperatures, and about that wet bulb temperatures will soon be the leading cause of death on the planet. And that's going to be from heat waves. When we have heat waves and there's a high humidity, we can't, our body's own cooling system fails. And that will start killing people in the tens, hundreds of thousands, and soon millions of people.
Yeah,
so learn about
that's what we're going to see.
Yeah. If you're ever in a heat wave and you see someone behaving like they might be a little bit stoned or drunk, those are indicative signs of hitting a wet bulb temperature. And it's critically important to cool the body as quickly as possible. So what I would say to people is, what can we tell our young people? I'd tell them, look for ways to mitigate the disaster and the catastrophe that's bearing down on us at the speed of a freight train. Darling, Leslie has just put up a link to my blog post on wet bulb temperatures. Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate it.
Okay. Well, this will be up when for anybody to watch. Okay.
Cool.
Continue your wave of thinking. That was interesting, and I could hear it.
Okay, I'd like to make an analogy that most people can probably relate to. If you're driving along in your car and the temperature gauge starts going up on your car, anyone who knows anything about mechanics knows that you've only got a very short window of opportunity to stop that combustion before you have systemic collapse of the operating system.
Mm-hmm.
About burning fossil fuels in the atmosphere. We've known for over 150 years that if we carried on doing this, it was going to change the biosphere completely. We never did anything about it. In 1989, the United Nations said, we have a 10-year window of opportunity to prevent the dangerous aspects of climate change. And we did nothing. That was in 1989. That's
I remember 38. We're all the same age, and a lot of us.
Yeah. So, it's all well and good. People say, well, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. The reality is we have gone completely over the cliff and we're in the free fall stage of the crash. So, people said earlier, one of the questioners said, what can I tell my 17-year-old daughter? And I would just tell them to make the most of life. Follow your dreams, follow your heart, and follow your intuition.
Make the most of life. Okay, I'm hearing it behind, so everybody. It's like I'm getting everything behind. Okay. Of course, we tell everybody to make the most of life. And what is, Sandra says, what do we do? And Kat is, she's saying, thank you so much for being here and sharing the valuable information, Kevin. It's tough information. This is not a walk in the park. This is our lives. And every time I talk about this, Kevin, to people that are comfortable and they really have a hard time dealing with it. It's such a collective denial that I don't even know what to do. I hope that I can learn how to deal with this better when I go with Carolyn Baker and Dean Walker to their to the seminar series in Boulder, because how to get to people. We publish things on our pages, right? But the same of all of us is reading it. And I know at Environmental Coffee House, we're trying to get it out, but we don't want to scare people to frightened, but we have to act proactively, don't we? Let's see. Lynn says the truth hurts, but no less the truth.
Absolutely. Everyone is entitled to the truth. If you went to your doctor and he found that you had advanced stage prostate cancer, do you want him to tell you? Or do you want to tell him to tell you that if maybe you don't have so many cholesterol, you might feel better? I'm sorry, this is a
Right.
situation that's been unheard of before. We've never been in a position where we're staring at the collapse of all complex life and the habitat on the planet. So of course it's a conversation that most people don't want to have. But I'm a yacht skipper. I've always, when I've sailed around the planet on yachts, I've always had in the back of my mind that a catastrophic collapse could take place. If we hit a container in the middle of the night, if the boat was sinking, there's a myriad of things that could happen. And what I'm saying now is this skipper can see that the boat is sinking. And I'm going to tell everyone the truth. I am not going to bullshit it, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
Remember, I'm hearing behind you. I'm hearing a little bit behind to keep up.
Well, I can only see
okay,
some.
not going to sugarcoat it. As a skipper, okay. I am such at a disadvantage. You don't have any idea. You sound like a musical instrument in the far away. I don't know. I didn't even know, guys, how to start this over again without it unhooking, because with this software, if you start it over again, you have to time it, and then it would have been. So I'm doing my best. So what I'm doing in light of this disabling, not being able to hear, is putting up things, and I will listen to Kevin later. Unfortunately, this is what's happening for me. This is the difficulty. Okay, so Sandra says consoling is the one thing to a dying person. So in other words, Sandra, we're consoling a dying planet. And it is almost like a choice. Do people want to be consoled? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, it makes sense. And what I think is that I say what I believe is happening. I'm not forcing my opinion on anyone. I think you just draw your own conclusions. Let your instincts, go with your instinct. I think people have forgotten how to listen to their instinct.
I think that it's not that but your opinion is also an educated opinion. You've been studying. You're a scientist. You've been learning all this. It's an educated opinion.
No, I'm not.
I understand.
No, I have to qualify that. I'm not a scientist, but I've spent a lot of time learning about science. And as a sailor sailing around the planet, I have learned a lot about the oceans, and the oceans are critical to the story.
Well, Kevin, I'm behind you, remember, so I'm just catching up on listening. Let's see. Oh, somebody is here from Ottawa. Hi, from Ottawa.
Hi, Vera.
How do you feel about do you have a friendship? Are you friends with Paul? And how do you feel about how Paul's progressing in his teaching? I've learned a lot from him.
Talking about?
Yes. Paul Becker.
Yeah, totally. Paul's doing amazing work, and he has a good.
I do think so. Mm-hmm.
And I totally respect Paul, but I think that one of the contributing factors in that cognitive dissonance that I see in a lot of people is having children. And a lot of the people who have been commenting as we've been speaking mention their children and how do we give this message to our children. And I think what it does is it makes it very difficult for people to accept that, their children are not going to be dying from old age, and they're not going to be living the same paradigm that we've lived. And my heart goes out to each and every one of those people. But I still, at the end of the day, believe that we have to tell the truth. And I think it's more important now than ever before.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. But I guess with me, maybe it is a little cognitive dissonance. Maybe it is that because I have a 28-year-old daughter, that I want to say, there is something you can do. But then again, we've come to that. There's something they can do. Live their life. Do the best they can. Come to some kind of realization of what's going on. And And what do they do with their anger, Kevin? What do they do with their anger at the fossil fuel industry, at our age group, at really baby boomers and all that have brought us to this, brought us to our knees, brought us to where Mother Nature is saying, Gaia is going to kick us right the hell off the corner of the earth. What do I say to my 28-year-old daughter? I mean, this is my dilemma because I know all this intellectually, but my emotions, and I'm sure as a lot of other people, are all churned up like not knowing how to handle this and trying to do the best I can.
Yeah, I totally get that. I live as I go for a patrol around the coast, and I pick up all the flotsam and jetsam, all the human rubbish that comes up on the beach. It's mostly plastic.
Yeah,
it will change nothing, but I'm going to do it until my last breath.
Okay.
I'm going to carry on doing what I think is the right thing without being attached to the outcome. I think that's the secret. Mm-hmm. Still do the right thing, still follow your heart, but don't do it with the thought that it has to work. That's not a motivation for doing right. Chris Hedges says in some of his presentations, he says, I don't fight fascism because I think I can win. I fight fascism because it's fascism. And I think the same thing. I think I'm going to do the best for Gaia that I can, as long as I can draw breath.
I think that is how I'm trying to say it. But it comes out a little bit muted because of that fact of fear for the kid. And he has kids. I mean, I know that there's a lot that don't have kids. I think there's a difference. Those of us that have kids feel a little bit different about this message. And so you and I right here are crafting a message that we can use for the millennials and for the younger generation to make that, to give them. I recycle. I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to take everything to the dump, but I'm not going to look at it if that's the solution and that's the outcome. And I haven't looked at it for years.
I suspect one of the reasons why a lot of people who are parents can't accept this dichotomy is the issue of guilt. And they feel guilty that they've brought their children into this collapsing world. And to make people guilty, there's nothing positive can come out of it. I think what people should do is be honest with their children, keep them up to speed about what the situation is and how dire it is, and get them to make informed decisions. What I suggest to young people is learn how to cook things, fix things. Don't get into the modern desires that everyone wants to be involved in IT. When the internet goes down, it's going to be no value to be an IT engineer. But if you're a mechanic or an electrician or a plumber or a gardener or any of those things, you might be able to do something in those catastrophic dystopian times.
Wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have a festival?
Is form a tribe. It's really important to form a tribe. Cut away the dead wood and surround yourself with people, empathetic people. Keep as many of those people as you can close to you and cut the dead wood free.
That's right. The negative people that are taking you down, those people that are ugly or the deniers or the people that you just I can't rectify myself to be around them anymore. I think I understand that. I do. I like, Kat says, form a tribe. She likes that. Fiesta. Cranberry is with us. Exactly, Kevin. I keep telling my friends with kids to make sure those kids know how to garden, spin, sew, raise animals, heal with herbs, everything that can actually give life a little bit longer of a shot wherever they may be that might give them that shot. We don't know, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I'd just like to quickly to say to all the people who are commenting, I can't keep up with it all, sorry, and I can't multitask, but I do appreciate the comments that people are saying, and I think it's great for us to have the conversation that no one wants to have. We have to be brave.
Dean Walker's book.
Absolutely.
The Impossible Conversation. And all of these interviews with people like you, it is helping me immensely, enormously, to find this voice. It's almost like we those of us have out here, even you, Kevin, we've reinvented ourselves several times.
Heidi just made a comment about the transition town people. Guy McPherson and I toured New Zealand twice, and we did last year, in October last year. And the transition town movement, the people who came from those organizations to our presentations, they were the ones who are most aware of the situation, and they're the ones who are already on the road. So I would highly recommend that everyone look into their area and see if there's a transition town near them, transition town movement near them, and get involved with it. It's a very, very good idea. Brilliant.
Well, thank you, Heidi. Thank you for doing that, Heidi. That was great, because actually I don't have a lot of information, so there's a whole nother research area, Heidi. And you can help, Heidi. Yes,
well done.
It's great. That is. It's great.
It's the purpose of these conversations. Let's all just get it out. Let's show our emotions. You know, sometimes when I speak publicly, people say, oh, you're too emotional. For pity's sake, the biosphere is collapsing. I'm emotional about it. I'm sorry.
I know. Or I get, you're the cheeriest doomer out there. And I say, well, what am I supposed to be? I can't stand it. I mean, it would be very easy for the emotions to change. It would be very easy for me to stop and just start crying and give up. I just have to think of one specific animal and I'm there. So I don't want to do that, though. I need the strength. This is what I'm getting from everybody out there. I mean, I'm blessed with this venue. I'm really blessed to have a voice in this time. I really feel like that, as you are, and it's a spiritual blessing.
I want to be a voice for Gaia. Industrial civilization creates all this noise. Gaia has been telling us for centuries that we've been on the wrong track. And this one species has led the whole biosphere down a cul-de-sac of extinction. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of the overall species, but most of them are innocent. The vast majority of humans on this planet are innocent of this crime. It is people who look like me are the most guilty. The white males from the industrialized world have the most blood on their hands. It's why I spend.
I'm not going to argue.
It's why I spend most of my life now working on this project. It's a mea culpa to Gaia. Guilty as charged.
It makes sense. I mean, and what are we seeing now in the United, well, all over the world, but in the United States, we're seeing it's a distraction. It's certainly a distraction what we're seeing on out in the streets. But, it would be nice if we could get those people to have a dialogue in reality and not just hate. That's another thing that makes me crazy. What the hell are these people doing? What are they doing? Don't they know? Climate change eclipses everything. Abrupt climate change eclipses everything. They're out in the streets arguing about hate because we don't like your color or religion. And abrupt climate change doesn't give a shit about any of that.
I think this is a deliberate strategy. I think the dominant culture is very cunning. It knows what I know. It knows what Guy McPherson knows. So what they're going to try and do right now till the lights go out is to divert us and to divide us. They will try and divide white from black, male from female, old from young. They'll try to separate and divide us as much as they can.
Well, so given that we hear that, what do we do politically? I tell people to get out there. I tell people get out there and vote, register to vote in the United States, get out there. Even if in the bigger picture, it may not make a difference. It does locally. So if you can make where you live a better place for the remaining time, I firmly believe that's a good way to go. And that's what I'm advocating here in my little community. I think that's a good strategy. Would you say not?
I have I have zero confidence in the electoral process. It is so completely dominated by the dominant culture. We have a Green Party in New Zealand who talks about positive growth.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have infinite growth on a finite planet.
I lost you.
I'm still here.
I'm listening. I'm just behind. Okay. So, all right. I am so sorry. I want to put up what Trevor's been talking about. There's been a discussion on the board about water. And Trevor says, how do you guard inorganics in your water? So Trevor's done the water system. He's created a water system that, again, a tap, and it'll bring it to an app, and you know what's in it. Trevor, with Kevin, what do you suggest people if they are in a position where they're stuck and they have a water source? Can you teach us that, Trevor? And Kevin, can you answer to that about a clean water source?
Well, you know, these are the issues that are coming up.
Climate change type of thing.
The water we drink and the food that we eat. Most people understand that that's how bad the situation is. So it always comes back to me to living in the now. Make the most of every day that you have now. No one can promise us even months now. We could see an ice-free Arctic next month in the Arctic. And that's a sea ice-free Arctic, by the way. It's not glacial ice, it's the ice in the sea. When that happens, we have the possibility to have the 50 gigaton burst of methane that has been hypothesized by Shakova and Semiletov from the University of Fairbanks in Alaska. If we have that discharge this year, it could all be over for industrial civilization at Christmas. I know that's an outlier. I know that that's a small possibility, but you've got to think about the worst case scenarios.
We all know we're all going to die. I mean, everybody's born knowing they're going to die. So I think it's just confronting those fears. We don't know if that methane is going to happen. But you know what, Kevin, when people say it's going to be very ugly, you know, at the end, or when this all comes down, how do we then communicate that to anybody who can't even deal with that?
Most people, they have either, their response is either to run away from the problem or to pretend. And I think this is a really, really difficult dichotomy to digest. I'm not a prepper. I don't believe in prepping because I suspect that it will be ugly beyond belief. And I've been asked in the situation of will you do by looking after protecting one of my neighbors or some child. That's how I see my end coming. Or the dominant culture locking me up. I wouldn't be surprised if they found a reason to lock me up and shut me up. Not that I have a particularly big audience or anything like that, but at the end of the day, they don't want anyone talking about collapse.
It is growing, though. And as I read a lot of things politically, it does also look like, I mean, capitalism is really on its way out. We're in the end of capitalism. It's all going to be concurrent. It's all going to happen concurrently. I see it. And again, you know, I'm smiling, but it's a smile of knowing, but it stops me from crying. That's all.
Yep. But I've got a nervous laugh like that as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of us do. But when I'm talking to somebody seriously about what's going on, I don't do that. You know, I try to engage them, but without giving them the worst case scenario first. I don't know. How do you start the conversation, Kevin?
How do we start the impossible conversation? Just like you and I did.
How do you?
Just like you and I did 50 minutes ago. We just get it out and talk about it. Have the conversation that no one wants to have. It won't make you. It won't make you the look. Michael has just said radioactivity has no political boundaries. That is exactly true. You know, we're going to see. It's possible that this planet will end up like Mars rather than Venus. For a long time, I was certain that it was just going to the place would boil and it would be Venus. But no one knows what will happen when we have 450 nuclear power station meltdowns, the attendant 1,200 spent fuel pool fires, and also the wars that are going to be waged over habitat.
Yeah, I have a question about that.
I believe personally that.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I couldn't hear you. But my question is, if every single nuclear power plant was shut down unilaterally right now, would that give the human species, some people, a better ability to make it through? If they were shut down, if there were no nukes?
No, but, you know, I don't think we should have conversations based on miracles. Okay. We have to deal with it in the context of what is achievable. There's a theory that it takes 60 years to decommission a nuclear plant, but that's.
I don't think it's a theory. I think it's real.
No, I don't believe it's much longer, because the reality is we've never figured out what to do with the waste. We started a chemical process without knowing how it was going to finish. And what we do is we just throw that waste away where no one can. They tried to put it in Yucca Mountain, as Mike Stapleton has just mentioned now, and the WIP facility there collapsed within months. It was supposed to be good for 1,500 years, and it didn't make 5.
Didn't make 5. You know, so here's a question. Somebody said to me yesterday when I was talking about just this, they said, oh no, nuclear waste can be made and nuclear reactors are being made so much better, and they could use the waste with a thorium reactor. And I said, well, to this guy, you have to write to me, because I don't know what a thorium reactor is. It doesn't sound like something viable to me.
I think thorium is another false dawn. And they're still talking about this fantasy technology. And it's really important to know about the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Their calculations based on what they think global warming will be up to 2100, which is all just bullshit, is based on a carbon capture technology that doesn't exist. They are making these predictions that have included a part of the equation that is a fiction. It's a great white lie.
Okay. I kind of
on my website about the lies of the IPCC.
And I have been reading all of those things, and I can't say that I don't agree with any of it, because, well, first of all, why would I not? I'm being educated in all this, as all of my readers all of our followers are. I think there's a lot of difference between when we started only 8-9 months ago to now. Big difference for all of the people that follow us. In the beginning, I think we did buy a lot of that stuff. And a lot of people still do. And probably I will lose some of my audience because they may say, well, she doesn't want to look at solutions. And I never say that. But like you said, we don't want to look at solution like it's actually going, it could really be the end. But then, like Trevor said before, Trevor, when you said you're going to fight like hell to the end, well, that's what we all should do. Fight like hell to the end and have the best life we can.
I'm prepared to look at solutions. Patrick McNulty believes that he has a solution. I think we should look for anything we can to mitigate this disaster. But the important thing is not to be attached to the outcome. Do the best we can, look for any solution we can, but don't be unrealistic about it. Because if you're unrealistic, you're promising a false dawn, and I think that's wrong.
I'm listening. I'm catching up.
Sorry about the lag.
all right. It's not your. It's nobody's fault about this sound thing today that I have. I have to listen on the phone to catch up with. Saying I'll figure it out, but and Kirk, you said, why do you think the rich are spending so much money on space travel? Are they? I don't know that. Now, can we have some? Can we have some reality here? What is that about?
This is a classic dichotomy of capitalism, where Elon Musk is promising to take the uber wealthy to an uninhabitable planet. For goodness sake, can people not see the insanity?
Oh my God, I think realism is just the way to go. I can't go into the conspiracy theories, but I'm not putting my person down that said that. I don't want to do that to anybody that comes onto Environmental Coffee House. We've always said we cover everything under the environmental continuum. From you all the way. I've had a couple of deniers I've talked to, but I haven't had the guts to have them on. I don't know. I think I might punch them through the screen. But that's neither here nor there. All right. So go ahead, Kev.
I'm more angry about people who deny abrupt climate change than I am the ultimate deniers. And a lot of those people are in the environmental movement and the big NGOs like 350.org, Greenpeace. One of the things is that none of those organizations they've known about tipping points. They've known that at some stage, if we didn't arrest the unraveling, we were going to cross a multitude of tipping points and we'd be on a course for Armageddon. And now that we've crossed them, they are denying that they happen. And I think that is even worse than the old deniers, because some people are just, you can't convince them, and you shouldn't really bother, If they're not prepared to look at the science, then forget about it. But when I see people who do know how bad it is, and they're not speaking the truth, I think those people are traitorous. They're traitorous to the morals and the ideals of the ecological movement, and they're traitors to Gaia. The last thing we should do is be honest about this. Put your hands up. Take responsibility. A mea culpa, an honest mea culpa.
What did they buy into, though? I just saw Bill McKibben last week in Albany, New York, at a rally, and it was about it's against this fracked gas plant that is going to emit tons of garbage into the air. I mean, I still believe in those things, stopping them. I still believe in activism against pipelines. I still believe it because it's a passionate cause for people to have, no matter what, like you said, not to say it's going to be a means to that it absolutely could happen, but it sure is a nice reward when things don't get approved, like what happened in New York. 3 pipelines are not going to happen. That's a good thing, no matter what.
Absolutely.
Even if she is going to kick us right off the side of the freaking earth, that's still good.
In New Zealand, I've been campaigning against the Trans-Pacific Agreement. I believe that capitalism and industrial civilization could collapse at a moment's notice. But I'm still campaigning against that enemy, the TPPA. I haven't given up. The most insulting thing that people can say to me is that I've given up. I spent every waking hour on this project. To accuse me of giving up because they don't accept my prognosis is intellectually bankrupt.
I agree with you there. That makes very good sense, and none of us are going to give up. Now, Trevor, my heart, Trevor up in British Columbia, he says, I'm an innovator. I will never stop creating solutions. And that's the way it should be. And we should all be even have this discussion because we're having that impossible conversation. And we are saying we know what's happening, but it doesn't say stop. It doesn't say that there's, nothing to live for. Okay, I think we've done really pretty good then during this whole thing. I do. What do you think, Kevin?
Absolutely. We've had the impossible conversation. We've sparked the debate. And can I just say to all the people who have been listening and making comments, fantastic series of contributions. You're all been a part of what we've done today.
Absolutely. I think this is the first I think this is the first. I want you to come back. I don't know how long we've been on, but it's been a good conversation, even though I've been at a bit of a handicap, having to use the phone to hear you a little bit. I don't know why, but I'll figure out my technical difficulties.
No problem at all. Their first world problems.
I think I did. What?
Their first world problems. Don't worry about it.
Well, I don't know, but I think that, I appreciate everybody that came. And let's see. See, here's somebody that's saying, where's Cliff? Cliff is saying, I'm convincing my wife to sell up and go traveling. That's kind of a good thing. I mean, and I'm looking at taking out money and taking my daughter to Greenland to see the glaciers before we can't see them ever again. My husband doesn't want to go, I don't think. So I'm going to do that if I can.
Cool.
Why not? I think we all should be looking at those things we can do and stop holding ourselves back. And you know what? Not everybody has money to. You can do that. Don't cost money. I don't know if I have that money for Greenland. That's going to come out of my pittance of a retirement, but it's there. So I would like to. And so anybody that can do anything, if you have to go to a state park, go enjoy the state park. Like Hambone, he's bringing us to Washington.
Yeah, classic.
Nice. Are we not? Right?
Absolutely.
I follow him every day. It doesn't matter. He rabbit hole where I was, but not firmly and fully until I got into everyone started really learning. But this isn't about me. It's about you. It's about you. So let's hear from you. Let's hear some closing remarks from Kevin, and hopefully you're going to come back.
Everyone who gave us their important, valuable time and listened to this conversation. And if I can just say one thing is, please make the most of every day. And if you can make it better for someone else and some other species, do that. Take your opportunity to do the right thing at every turn. Wouldn't that be a wonderful way for the movie to end? For you to be doing something for Gaia.
I hear it. That's right.
Cool, let's wrap this up.
We do the right thing at every turn. I try to do the right thing at every turn. And I don't know, maybe somebody else might think that what my right thing is different than theirs, but it doesn't matter. If you know this in your heart, I believe that we will be able to be at peace when the inevitable does happen. And that is really the big thing, being at peace when the inevitable does happen. And then next time we talk,
Andrea,
the government handing them out. So we have them.
Andrea's just asked the question about when do I think the coral will die, and I think the global reef systems are very stressed. They're in hospice, and it takes about 50 events, and there's going to be no recovery. There won't be any window of opportunity for it to recover, and the next El Nino will be the death knell for the coral, unfortunately.
And that's it. When is that next El Nino?
No one knows.
When is that? Oh, okay. Because I thought the weather they could tell. No one knows this time.
No normal anymore.
Okay, nothing's normal anymore. Okay, well, I am going to thank everybody because we don't want to be on too long because we want to have more to talk about the next time Kevin comes on when I can hear him properly. And again, thank you, everyone. This was. I think it was a really good talk. I know I was at a handicap here, but I did my best, and you all made the conversation really good. And I completely appreciate that. And I guess we're going to say goodbye for now. And I want to thank you so much.
Let's wrap it there. Thank you very much, you, Sandy, and everybody else. And one last final thing. I hope Doug recovers from his injury and he's back on his bike before too long.
Okay, I hope so too. Thank you so much. That was like the best thing you could have said. Peace, everybody. Thank you for coming. Peace out, and we will do this again. Thank you, Kevin. Okay. Kevin,